I'm wondering if am I the jerk because I told my ex-husband that outside of anything to do with our children, his life doesn't mean anything to me, and I owe nothing to his fiancée. Let me explain the whole situation. I'm a 34-year-old woman, and my ex-husband Jake, who is 36 years old, decided to leave me for a woman he works with, named Clara, who is now 26 years old. This happened 2 years ago. From the very beginning I had a feeling that Clara was trouble. The very first time I met her was at one of Jake's work events. At that time, I was pregnant with our youngest child. Clara made a rude comment to me, suggesting that I needed to be a better wife or she might just take Jake away from me. Just 3 months after that, she actually did. On the day Jake decided to leave our home, Clara was right there by his side, helping him pack his things. She even tried to talk to me directly about how she imagined our interactions would be in the future because, due to my kids, she'd be in my life whether I liked it or not. She even made a snarky joke saying I warned you I'd take him. Honestly, looking back, I'm somewhat relieved she did, because during our divorce proceedings, Jake made a dismissive comment about Clara's age, suggesting she wasn't fully mature yet. That comment backfired on him and gave me a strong advantage. I ended up with a very favorable settlement from our divorce, and we agreed to share custody of our kids 50-50 for their well-being. I make an effort to stay polite and drama-free so that we can both be there for our children's important events without any issues. But beyond the necessity of co-parenting, I really don't care about what happens in Jake or Clara's lives. In June, something interesting happened. Instead of Jake coming to pick up the kids, Clara showed up. She was practically bouncing with excitement as she came over to me, eager to show off her new engagement ring. She even mentioned something about wanting me and my daughters to be bridesmaids in her wedding, but I honestly wasn't paying much attention. I was in a hurry because I needed to take our cat to the vet, based on some texts Jake had sent earlier. A few hours after that encounter, Clara got pretty upset with me. Apparently she was offended because all I had said in response to her entire spiel was a noncommittal, This wasn't the first time my lack of interest had irked her. Something similar happened again in September when she excitedly told me she was expecting a baby. Just like before, my lack of reaction didn't sit well with her. Then in December, right as I was opening the car door to drop off the kids, Clara couldn't wait to tell me that Jake was finally going to have a son. Without missing a beat, I responded with heavy sarcasm, saying, I'm sure Lord Jake is thrilled to have an heir to inherit his vast lands and titles. This comment of mine ended up causing quite a bit of drama, especially since Jake's family thought it was hilarious. Clara, on the other hand, was not amused and ended up speaking poorly of me to others because of it. In December, something unexpected happened. It had been quite some time since I had seen Clara, but on this day, she came along with Jake for the kids' drop-off. When they walked up to me, I immediately noticed something different about Clara. It looked like she wasn't pregnant anymore. Fighting back tears, Clara shared the sad news with me, saying, we lost the baby. I was caught off guard and didn't know how to respond, so I simply focused on Jake and mentioned our second daughter's upcoming birthday party and oldest daughter's gymnastics schedule. Clara became very upset with my reaction. She yelled at me, calling me heartless and bitter. Then she quickly grabbed the kids' bags and walked away in anger. After this, Jake turned to me and suggested that I could have shown some kindness towards Clara. He reminded me that Clara is going to be a part of our kids' lives as their stepmom. I replied to Jake by saying that I really don't have any feelings about Clara's situation because to me what matters most are our children. I don't feel I owe Clara any sympathy or kindness. Jake got really upset with me for saying that. He called me insensitive, among other things, and then he left. This situation would usually not bother me much, but even my ex-in-laws, who I normally have a good relationship with, told me they think I should have been kinder. They believe I should have at least pretended to care about Clara's loss for the sake of maintaining peace for our children, so am I the jerk for doing this? End of the post. Now before we move to the comments and the update, here is what I got to say. Honestly, OP, I don't see you as the jerk here. You really don't owe Clara any kind of emotional support. You've made it clear to Jake multiple times that you're not interested in anything about their lives beyond how it affects your children. Yes, what Clara experienced is truly awful. Losing a baby is an incredibly painful event, and there's no doubt she's hurting a lot. But that doesn't suddenly make you responsible for offering her comfort, especially given the history you have with her. She played a part in breaking up your marriage by getting involved with your husband. And while you've pointed out that maybe losing a cheater isn't a big loss, it's still a betrayal that affects how you see both of them. However, there's a bit of wisdom that says being polite doesn't cost you anything. This doesn't mean you have to like her or even care about her on a personal level. Recognizing someone's pain doesn't mean you're friends or that you've forgiven the past. It's just acknowledging that they're going through a tough time. But again, that's your call to make based on your own feelings and boundaries. What do you all think about OP's situation? Do you agree that OP doesn't owe Clara anything? Or do you think there's room for empathy? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And now, let's check out what the rest of the community has to say about this. LK6241 says, "Not the jerk." You're absolutely right. Your main focus is co-parenting with your ex, not managing his current partner's feelings or personal life. It does seem odd that she's sharing such personal details with you, especially considering the nature of your relationship with her. It's possible she lacks a support network of her own, but ultimately, that's not something you're responsible for addressing. Your priority is your children's well-being and ensuring effective communication with their father about their needs. Anything beyond that, especially concerning his fiancée's personal struggles or life events, isn't something you're obligated to involve yourself with. And OP responds, "During the same office party, she came up to me and made a bold statement, suggesting I needed to step up my game as a wife. A few coworkers, whom I've known for a long time, later told me that her blunt approach isn't new and that her behavior is known for being quite direct, which has raised concerns about her well-being among them. They seem to imply that her straightforwardness might be a sign that she's not doing well, hinting at underlying issues that might be causing her to act out in such a forthright manner." 6,241 Hong Kong dollars says, "Dear OP, you're handling a truly awful situation with grace and dignity. You're focusing on safeguarding your children and steering clear of the unnecessary drama stirred up by this young, immature woman. There's no reason for you to be invested in her emotions. While it's true she's faced a tough loss, it's as though she expects you to applaud her for her relationship with your former husband and empathize with their challenges. Both your ex and his fiancée are living in a fantasy if they think that's reasonable. Keep up your strength and well done on building a fresh start for you and your family." And OP responds, "She once suggested that considering my age, I ought to act more maturely for the sake of our children and that we should present a united front by becoming friends. I won't pretend otherwise." I was so astonished by her suggestion that I just stood there, mouth agape, for more time than I'd like to acknowledge. RH213 says, "You're not the jerk here. Moreover, you might want to suggest to the in-laws how interesting it would be to observe them taking the high road with someone who blatantly aimed to disrupt your family and succeeded in doing so. You don't owe her anything. And whatever consequences she's facing now are simply the result of her own actions." And OP responds, "All right. I've decided I will take action because my ex-husband's sister, who used to be my sister-in-law, told me that I should have really stood up for myself against them. She said I should have reacted much stronger, kind of like how the character in the movie Gone Girl did, and that I should have done this not just once, but many times over the past 2 years." End of the comment. Additional information from OP's comments. "I've always tried to keep things friendly with both my ex-husband and his new partner. I've never stopped them from coming over to my house, especially when it's time for special family events or birthday parties that happen to fall during my time with our daughters. If there's Father's Day coming up or a birthday, I always ensure my girls have some money for me to buy gifts for their dad. It's been my rule from the very start that everything we do, every decision we make, should be about our daughters and what's best for them. Beyond that, I've asked my ex to just let me be. In the beginning, when all the changes were still fresh and painful, I'll admit I did vent a lot about them to my family and friends. But as time went on, my feelings towards them both cooled down. Nowadays, I hardly give them a second thought. One thing I've noticed and genuinely appreciate is that Clara, despite everything, seems to be a really good stepmom to my girls. That's something I'm truly thankful for. Sometimes these brief chats I have with Clara happen when the kids are around. They'll be heading out to the car, stop to give me a hug, tell me they love me, and then they're off. Except for that one time recently, our conversations have always been calm. We've never really raised our voices at each other. These talks usually don't last very long, maybe about 5 to 15 minutes, depending on what we're talking about that day. Clara has mentioned more than once that she'd like for us to be friends. She's even told people close to us, like my ex-in-laws, that I seem unable to let go of the past, all for the sake of our children's happiness. She's gone so far as to call me a pick-me to them, suggesting I'm trying too hard in some way that I don't quite understand. My eldest daughter made it clear to her dad that I've never spoken negatively about him in front of them. So she found it unfair for him or his partner to speak ill of me or to probe for information about my life through them. Both Jake, my ex-husband, and Clara, his partner, have previously tried to paint a negative picture of me to our children. They've questioned them about my personal life and actions, attempting to sway the kids' opinions about me. This reached a point where, during an incident where Clara wanted my daughters to be bridesmaids, my eldest expressed her discomfort to both me and her grandmother, my ex-mother-in-law. After learning about this, I warned Jake that I would take legal action if such behavior continued, and his family assured me of their support in this matter. Our kids are of varying ages, 13, 12, 7, and 2 years old. I believe it's important for them to develop their own views about their father and Clara as they grow up. While Jake and I have our differences, I acknowledge his deep love for our children. I'm confident that he would never tolerate Clara or anyone else harming them. Likewise, my ex-in-laws have shown they would intervene swiftly if needed. As far as I know, Jake and Clara aren't married yet. I didn't delve into the reasons because it didn't seem my place to ask. However, my 2 oldest daughters were looking forward to getting their hair and makeup done professionally for what was supposed to be their father's wedding, but Jake never provided a specific date. It's possible the wedding was postponed, perhaps until after Clara's expected baby was born, but that's just speculation. Jake once suggested that I should have acted more maturely for our daughter's sake, especially since Clara was attempting to extend an olive branch by involving them in the wedding. He mentioned Clara had offered an apology and a sort of peace offering when she asked about the bridesmaid roles. Honestly, I might have missed her apology or any significant remarks from her because at that moment, I was more concerned about my very sick cat needing immediate veterinary care. My focus was on my pet's health rather than on what Clara was saying. Life is pretty great now that I'm on my own. A lot of people don't realize how awesome it is to be single. Just last week, I adopted 2 older cats. I learned about this from my book club. There's a shelter nearby that holds an event every month focused on finding homes for older cats so they can enjoy some love and comfort in their final days. I've decided that when my kids are all grown up and out of the house, I'm going to embrace being the neighborhood cat lady. You know, the one that everyone jokes about being a witch. But honestly, I'm totally okay with that. It sounds like a peaceful, fulfilling future to me, surrounded by cats and maybe a bit of mystery. End of additional information from OP's comments. Okay, everyone seems to agree that OP isn't a jerk here, and she really doesn't have to do anything for Clara. OP has shared more about how things are between them, which really makes it clear. OP believes, and I'm with her on this, that Clara maybe shouldn't come along for the kids' pickups if it's causing her so much trouble. It looks like Clara is trying hard to create some kind of bond. But honestly, if I were OP, I wouldn't be interested in forming any sort of relationship with her either. However, I still think that being polite doesn't mean you're not standing up for yourself. Anyway, we're about to check out the latest update on this situation. But before we do, if you're finding this story interesting, please hit the like button and drop a comment below because it really supports the channel. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's dive into the update and see what happened next. All right, let me break this down a bit more, making it really simple and longer for you. So here's what went down. I decided to send a message to my ex-husband Jake. In the message, I explained to him that I've been thinking about Clara, his fiancée, and how she's been acting lately. It seems like she's going through a really tough time with her emotions and mental health. Because of this, I suggested that maybe it would be better if either Jake or his mom could take over picking up our daughters from my place for a while. I also mentioned that if things with Clara get even more difficult, or if her mental health seems to get worse, I think it would be best for our girls to stay with me all the time, just for a couple of weeks. This would be until things at their house calm down and become a safer and happier place for our kids. Not long after I sent that message, Jake tried to call me, but I didn't think talking on the phone was a good idea right then, so I texted him back instead. I said it's easier for me if we just keep our conversation to texts. Jake replied, saying he really wanted to talk face-to-face because he had something very important he wanted to discuss. He mentioned it wasn't just about the girls, but also about us, all of us, including him, me, Clara, and the kids, and how we all get along moving forward. He brought up the idea of all of us going to family therapy together. I was open to the idea of therapy, but only for the kids. I told him if he really thinks the girls need to talk to someone, like a therapist, I'm completely on board with finding a good one that we both think is right. But Jake kept trying to bring the conversation back to the idea of all of us, including him, me, Clara, and the kids, going to therapy together as a kind of big, blended family. After we texted back and forth for a few hours and it seemed like we weren't getting anywhere or agreeing on anything, I decided I had enough. I didn't reply to his last message and just left it without a response. After all that drama, I decided to reach out to my ex-husband's parents. I really needed to clear the air with them. I explained the whole situation, emphasizing how I really didn't want to get dragged into any drama between Jake and Clara, especially if it didn't directly involve our kids. I've said it before and I'll say it again, all I want is to keep things civil between us for the sake of co-parenting our children. I also made it clear to them that I really appreciate having them in my life, but I would have to step back and limit our contact if these awkward and unnecessary situations kept popping up. Jake's mom, who's always been kind to me, apologized. She explained that her reactions were driven by a mix of emotions. After all, Jake is her son, and seeing him hurt over the loss of the baby affected her deeply, as that would have been her grandchild. I totally got where she was coming from, and I forgave her because I understand family emotions can run high in situations like these. Now here's where things took a turn for the unexpected. Clara showed up at my doorstep out of the blue. Now I've seen enough mystery and crime shows to know that opening the door in such situations might not be the best idea. So I didn't open the door. Instead, I communicated with her through the security camera by the doorbell, which also recorded our conversation. She was in tears, apologizing and saying she just wanted to be friends with me. She even went as far as to say that losing her baby was karma for how she treated me, and that I should forgive her. She was saying a lot, but her words were muffled and hard to understand through her sobs. Feeling a mix of concern and wanting to handle the situation properly, I called the police to report the incident for safety reasons. I also called my brother for some immediate family support, and I let Jake know what was happening. Clara wasn't arrested or anything like that, but when Jake arrived, he talked to my brother and confirmed he'd take Clara back home. It was an intense and unexpected situation to say the least, and it really underscored how complex and emotional these dynamics have become. Right now I think it's the best choice for my daughters to be with me all the time. They're safe at our home, and my brother has agreed to stay with us for a bit to make sure we all stay safe. First thing on Monday, I'm going to see a lawyer to talk about making sure I can have my daughters with me all the time and to see if we can get a legal order to keep Clara away from us. I have this uneasy feeling that things might start to get really complicated and messy, and I want to be ready for whatever comes our way. I had to repeatedly tell Clara to get off my property because I really didn't want to deal with any of her drama or issues. To be honest, I was really looking forward to just having a quiet, relaxing weekend at home, and I'm not sure why I'm suddenly being pulled into all their problems. Also, I saw some comments on my last post calling me jealous and bitter, but let me be clear. There's absolutely nothing for me to be jealous of. The person who cheated on me isn't someone to be envious of. He's now Clara's problem, not mine. And for anyone thinking that me saying I don't care about my ex's life means I haven't moved on, that's not true at all. It's not about holding on to past feelings, it's about setting boundaries. When someone makes it clear they want you to leave them alone, they're not playing hard to get. They genuinely want nothing to do with you. So that's where things stand for me. My main focus is on keeping my kids safe and trying to maintain a peaceful life for us. End of the update. It seems like Clara is going through the miscarriage. She's feeling guilty for causing trouble in OP's life by getting involved with her ex-husband. Now Clara wants to be friends with OP. It's totally understandable that OP doesn't want anything to do with Clara. It's clear that Clara needs to seek help from a professional to deal with her feelings and the situation she's in. It's really smart and important that OP is being cautious to keep herself and her kids safe from any trouble that might come from this situation. Wishing OP all the best as she moves forward. It's really brave of you to share your story with us, and we hope everything works out for the best for you and your children. Take care of yourself and stay strong. Thanks for watching.